Hello, my name is Owen. Today I'll be doing a quick review of George R.R. Martin's A Dance with Dragons. What I want to do is give a brief overview of what the book is about, tell you things that I liked, and tell you things that I didn't like. Jumping straight into it, if you don't know, this is the 5th book in A Song of Ice and Fire. It is the latest book in like the Game of Thrones books to have come out, and it's been a long time coming since a new book has come out, The Winds of Winter. Who knows when that's coming out, but I'll tell you what, I'll let you in on something. George was waiting for me to catch up to the series before he released the book, so it's coming out shortly. He's gonna announce it next few weeks, release date this upcoming fall. He was waiting for me. Sorry guys. I know you've been waiting like over a decade, but he was waiting for me. It's coming out now, all right? You're welcome. But anyway, like I said, Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, caught up. I'm caught up. It's been a long time coming, right? It's a long time since I did a review. And I've been reading this book for over 2 months, but I finally finished it. And let's just jump into things that I didn't like. I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is the worst Game of Thrones book. That might be a hot take. I literally have no idea what the general discourse, because usually like the public discourse of Game of Thrones is that they're mad that The Winds of Winter hasn't come out yet. I think this was the worst one, and I can't exactly pinpoint my finger as to why. But one of the major reasons is it took me forever to finish it, and I feel like it shouldn't have. And listen, there's a lot of like me personal things that have been going on, right? So I've been kind of in a reading slump. I don't really want to read that much. However, I think that's in part to me not being super engaged into this ginormous book that I'm reading. I read it on my Kindle too, so it's an 1,100 page book in a Kindle, so it's like still this thin, but it's just like, damn, like, I keep swiping, but the pages keep going. You know what I mean? Like literally forever. But also like, I think for this one, because how it was for the last book, like a Feast for Crows, like I knew that these were, like that book was basically like the POV chapters that just made Dance with Dragons bloated, was just taken out and made its own book. So like all the Jaime and Cersei chapters and like Arya and like Brienne, taken out of that book, put into their own book because it was just way too long. And when I read that book, it did feel like half the characters were missing. Like your Jon Snows, your Daenerys and stuff like that. And it was noticeable. However, I didn't mind it because it felt tight. It felt like a tight story. This one, on the other hand, felt the opposite of tight. We did get to catch up with Daenerys and Jon Snow. However, we also saw like a chapter of Jaime. We saw many chapters of Cersei. We saw chapters of Arya. So it's almost like, I guess you really didn't split it up then. Why didn't you just finish their stories in the Feast for Crows then, if you still have more chapters? Because it felt like for the first like half, maybe even 2/3 of the book, it was just the characters that we didn't catch up with. But then it was, but also everybody's talking here. And it's just like don't get me wrong, Jaime's my favorite character, but like when I saw his chapter, I'm like, hey, this isn't about you. Step off, all right? And it was just like the Greyjoy chapters, come on, man. Greyjoys, we need to have the perspective of 3 different Greyjoy family members, like Theon, Yara, and the other guy. Come on, the one who drives the boat. You know what I mean? I don't even remember his name because he was by far the most boring one of the family. Because honestly, Theon chapters were fairly interesting, in his arc of like getting over Reek and stuff like that. It was actually very interesting to read, and Yara too. I think that she's just a great character. Like what she does in the book, not very interesting on paper, but just like, it's an interesting character. However, like that guy, the uncle that like isn't the priest one, and he's not Euron. It's the one who's kind of just like a wet fish. Not to get Greyjoy on you, or Sea Kraken, whatever they are. It's just so uninteresting because a plotline like that, with him sailing to Daenerys and he's going to make him his bride and steal him from Euron, who also wants to. We all know damn well no Greyjoy is going to marry Daenerys. Come on. It's just one of those many plot lines that Martin introduced in Game of Thrones that you know are just leading nowhere. You know what I mean? And not that they're not interesting and they shouldn't be included, because like that's part of like the aesthetic, right? Is like setting up big plot lines only for them to fail miserably and die. Like it's kind of like the rhythm. But when you introduce it and you're going to say, okay, we're going to spend like 200 pages talking about like this guy's goal, but from the first page, you know it's going to fail. Like the best part about, jumping ahead a little bit, about Quentin's story, like with his going to Daenerys is that I had no idea how it was gonna pan out. Because he was like a fresh character that wasn't in the show at all, so I had no knowledge of him. He's got a quest, he's got his loyal knights, and he's got a little arc. And I'm like, I don't know, like obviously he's not gonna marry Daenerys because he gets denied pretty quickly, but like he's a player and he's sticking around the game, and then he dies, you know what I mean? But I didn't know he was gonna die until he died. Meanwhile, I know for this Greyjoy guy, maybe he's not gonna die, but we know he's gonna fail. And then like Euron's probably gonna be able to be like, now, brother, I will have to do what you are supposed to do, but better. And then he'll still fail too. So it's like the one-upness of like, my brother's a villain, I will take what is mine and thwart him. But you're gonna fail because the villain needs to do it because Euron hasn't done anything yet. But because he's a villain, he's also gonna fail because he's not one of the villains that like succeed. Because there's the villains that succeed in Game of Thrones, and then there's the villains that fail in Game of Thrones. And Euron's one of these ones. Let's just say that. But other than that, any other plot lines that bored me? Here's the thing. Honestly, I thought Jon Snow's were kind of slow. He was kind of meandering a lot because like every time you go to the castle, it's just like, I like the wildlings, but nobody likes me liking the wildlings. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. And that was my Kit Harington impression. Because he just like never moved from that spot. And, like every once in a while, like a new wildling would come in, everyone would be like, what are you doing here? He's like, they must stay here. It's like, we get it. We get the conflict. And I knew personally the spoiler that he was going to get stabbed at the end. But listen, let's be honest. He's getting revived just like in the show. He was just saving it for the next book. He's going to get revived because it was such an like anticlimactic end. However, I did think it was more interesting, which I don't remember how it happened in the show, why he got stabbed. I thought he got stabbed in the show because he let the wildlings in. But it's when he got stabbed because he's like, I'm going to break my vow and go south. And then they're going to stab him. But they were going to stab him anyway because like he was super unpopular. Anyway, I'm getting too in the weeds here. The things that I liked, however. So overall, I just felt like the structure was off. And I've never read a book. Hold on. I'm all over the place. But I've never read a book or a series where I felt that so much still needed to happen and I'm engaged in everything and wanting to see how it pans out, except a singular book has too much going on. Because every plot line that George R.R. Martin introduced, I trust that he's going to wrap up in a satisfying way. But including them in this book felt stupid and it felt wrong and it I don't know, it bothered me for some reason. I just don't understand why it didn't click with me like the other books. And maybe it's because it was a Kindle, it was a long book, you can't really see your progress, maybe I was a reading slump, or maybe it's just like not as good as the other ones. Anyway, but the things that I liked about this book. Obviously, I love the characters. They're the same. The plot lines are largely the same, just continued. But listen, I know I've said in the past, the greatest knight of all time is the Onion Knight. I've said it. He's a great character. He's the most honorable. However, I lied. I lied because the greatest knight of all time is Barristan Selmy. And this book is great because it, for one reason only, it introduces the POV of Sir Barristan. His POVs were absolutely fascinating because before he's just like this badass old knight, you know, no one could beat him. He's super honorable. Like on paper, compared to the rest of the characters who are like more dimensional, he's kind of like a snoozer, right? Oh, he's super honorable. Yeah, like get in line, pal, right? At least Davos like can't fight, which makes him interesting. You know what I mean? He's like lowborn, made highborn. Like Barristan's like, oh, he was a knight as a child. Like who cares? Like even though like I cared even then because he's just like really cool, like an old man who could like beat up anybody in a fight. Like come on, it's kind of cool. Anyway. We get the POVs. Daenerys is gone. He's in a pit full of people he can't trust. He doesn't know where to trust. Doesn't know where to turn. POV Barristan Selmy. He's got to clean all this up. He's the Kingsguard. Doesn't even know if the king wanted the queen killed. He doesn't even trust the. He's in a flip of his past with the Targaryen and the Mad King. He's like in an inverse, but this time he's taking action. He's making plays. He's playing the Game of Thrones. And a man. When you make an honorable man like Barristan Selmy, who literally the only thing he wants to do is hold a sword and stand next to whoever the ruler is and protect them. That's all he wants to do. But he has to scheme, and like he's not that good at it. But like he's still killing it though. When he confronts the king, what is it, Hisdar, something like that. whatever. He goes to the throne room and he's just like, no nonsense, guys hiding in the curtain. You're dead. You're dead. Barristan is a fascinating character, and I'm mad that the book ended with the cliffhanger of them about to go to war, because I want to see Barristan the general. I want to see his strategy. I want to see him fighting in the trenches. I hope he doesn't die. That would be tragic. However, love his POVs, by far my favorite POV of the book. Even though my boy Jamie did have a chapter, like I said, it felt out of place. Jamie, you should have stuck in your lane, stay in your own book, okay? But other than that, that's my review. Hopefully that book comes out within at least, all right, how about I'll give you a realistic timeline. Next 3 years. If it doesn't come out in the next 3 years, it's not coming out ever. People have been saying that for the last 10 years, but I'm going to say it. When I say it, it's real, okay? As for the rest, I want to make a video about all the implications from Dance with Dragons that will change the trajectory of the books, like especially different from the show, because there were so many, like Young Griff, who? Young Griff, who is that? And John Connington's chapters were great, and that they have a lot of implications. But I'm gonna make a separate video about all of those ones that I found fascinating. That's another thing I didn't like, but I somehow forgot to say, is I had no idea what was gonna happen for most of it. I'll make a separate video about that. It'll be coming out later this week. Maybe I'll check out Fire and Blood, some other George R.R. Martin stuff, but right now I think we can take a break from Song of Ice and Fire. I've still been, even though it's been a while since I made a video about it, I've been reading it the whole time, trust me. I need to take a step back. But thanks for sticking around. If you like reviews and fantasy content like this, be sure to subscribe and like the video. It helps a lot, and I'll see you.